Oh, I got to request permission. Is that how
No,
this works?
I went ahead and did. So,
All right, that's fine. I'll cut this out. Hey everyone, welcome back to Brains, Brawn, and BS. Today we are back in the studio with Scott, and we are going to be discussing change in various points in our life, both personally and professionally. So, Scott, why don't you take it away?
oh shit, put me on the spot. All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Uh, yeah.
That's
Okay,
cool.
cool. So, hey guys, good to be back. So, basically, a good thing that I wanted to talk to you guys today about is going to be change and essentially adapting to it, and everyone's reactions to it, and how you can benefit while other people are just complaining about it. I want to kind of roll with it and say, hey, Luke, talk about a time where maybe you struggled with change because yeah, just talk about a time whenever you struggled with something that was changing.
Sure. So a bunch of different things come to mind, but I think a very dramatic time that would work well and show an example of extreme change. Oh my God, there's a huge spider on my wall. Wow. Look at that sucker. I mean, if you guys could see this, it
Turn
is
the use your camera.
huge.
I want to see this. Use the
Oh
camera.
my gosh. Hold on one sec. Let me see if you could, do you see it behind that book right
Oh
there?
my gosh, dude.
Anyway, so back on topic, I'll just go ahead and eyeball him. Oh, he's moving now. So, a really dramatic change or time of change in my life is when I first shipped off to Fort Benning, Georgia, and I had to leave my high school and 17-year-old lifestyle. Get on a plane, fly out there. Was thrown into a very intense situation that I was not at all prepared for, and just really, I mean, it's the most insane kind of transition you can make, I think, from just doing your everyday thing to being thrown into a new place where you have no control over your individual decisions or what you want. It's not about what you want to do, and you can't do what you want to do at all. I mean, when you wake up, regulated. When you go to the bathroom, regulated. What you eat, regulated. When you eat, regulated. I mean, there's really no individual freedoms or liberties at that point. And learning to deal with that and adapt and figure out, what I needed to do to survive was crucial. And I don't think I'd be the same person I am today if I didn't adapt to change and respond accordingly, because that was intense.
Yeah. So how did you adapt to that? Because for anyone going into a situation like that, it is a complete flop from anything that they've ever dealt with before.
Hmm.
It's got to be stressful.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
what kind of things did you do to be able to kind of overcome the tension? You never really overcome
Sure.
that tension, I'm sure, but to essentially adapt.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Honestly, I just keep my eyes keep panning to my target to where that spider is. So, the short answer is you just do it. You know what I mean? Now, that doesn't, a lot of people are like, oh, I've heard that before. But the reality of the situation is you got to take some action and just do it. You just got to deal with it. You got to get in there. It's going to be tough. And you have to think about the end goal. I think focusing on the end goal really motivated me. I mean, the fastest way to get out of there is to do what you need to do it properly, and just execute. And then at the end of the day, this isn't permanent, this isn't forever, this is a means to an end. So if you keep that in your head and you always think about that, no matter how terrible the situation is or may be, and you keep moving towards that goal that you have in your mind and focusing on your why, then you can essentially get through anything. Now, that's not a 47-step action plan, but that is the big picture. That's what you need to do, in my opinion.
All right. So, what was that goal that you were chasing while you
In
were there?
training,
Because
yeah,
drill sergeants yelling in your face, climbing over stuff. I mean, just in the mud, and
oh
in
yeah,
the wilderness. You told me about that too, and in the
oh yeah,
desert. So,
yeah.
what was that
That
one
was a
thing?
different time, but yes, still the same shit, different day. Yeah, no. So, I mean, for that specific situation, when I'm talking about just basic training, which is pretty general, and infantry school, the goal was just finish the program. That was I was get the hell out of there. And the fastest way to get the hell out of there is to do everything you need to do, finish every obstacle, overcome every challenge, pass every PT test, just becoming, learning your basic soldier tasks and drills, and not fucking up, and that was it was a 3 or 4 month goal, so it wasn't super long term by any means, but I wanted to get out of there, and I was so focused on graduating, even though I had never done anything like land navigation at night and been dropped off in some random woods, like, figure it out, stupid. And you're like, oh, right. It's dark out, and I can't read this map. Like, plot the grid, coordinates, plot the points, get there, hit your targets in this amount of time. And, just stuff like you focus on that, getting out of there and winning, which was graduating for me. And you slowly make efforts automatically towards that goal. I mean, really, if you ask, in my opinion, most of us know what we need to do. Like in that situation, everyone knows that they should graduate. And then you automatically make efforts towards that, keeping your why and your end goal in mind. I think that's super critical, because you see a lot of people snap. I mean, some people just couldn't do it, and they failed to adapt to change. And guess what? They didn't make it, and they were stuck there making big rocks into little rocks for I don't know how long. I mean, you really don't know. So the fastest way out is through.
Okay. Well, now, I know you started. What was your goal when you started then? 'Cause, those are really solid points. But was just getting out really your goal? I mean, going in, you had to have some idea of what you were getting to. Some people go into the military to get to pay for college, or
Okay, so you want to even back it up further as far as like more of a macro view? Yeah. So
yeah, why not?
more generally speaking, I joined because I thought it was the only, just really honestly, I can make up a bunch of honorable lies, but I thought it was the only way I was going to be able to go to college. That turned out to not be the case, no matter what. But needless to say, I'm really happy that I did it. It's played a tremendous role in my life, and I did receive a ton of benefits from it. Not monetarily, but as far as character building skills and attributes and just knowledge. Wow, I mean, it's really irreplaceable. To a 17-year-old, for me to go. I mean, I did stuff I never thought I could do. So pretty boosting for me. I mean, God knows what the long-term effects of that were. I'd probably be, I don't know where I'd be right now if I didn't do that. So although I didn't see that at the time, there was a lot of unforeseen benefits. But yeah, initially, like very right before I joined, I thought that's how I would pay for college. And that is the long and short of that.
Okay, definitely. Now you actually came. You spoke about when they dropped you in the middle of a place and said, "Find your way home, stupid." Right?
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course they had you, saying, "Hey, plot the points on the map and everything."
Mm-hmm.
Can you just really quick kind of like go back to that? And what I'm trying to get to is, you were thrown into that situation. And of course, a lot of people, they're the same way. They get in there because they want to go to college and they feel like that's the only way that they can do it. Or, maybe to make their father proud if they were in the military, things like that.
Yeah, sometimes it's a family thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But you, when you got in there, you of course were slapped with this huge change. And then I really feel like I want to listen to kind of what your thoughts were and, what you had to deal with when you got dropped off in the wilderness, because I really feel like that's going to be key in, what we're discussing today with overcoming change. What kind of things were you having to do to be able to find your way back? I mean, what did they expect of you?
Yeah, so if we're what you're referencing is a specific course. It was actually the nighttime version of the nighttime version of land navigation. So essentially, you're given some classes is a strong word. You do some coursework that week, and not in an academic setting whatsoever. And you learn the basics. Man, this takes me back of looking at maps, interpreting maps, reading maps, understanding where you are, landmarks, how to read a map, hills, distance. You look at the measurement system. You learn to scale the map. Like this is one grid up. That's 1,000 meters. So we're here. I've identified that with this tree, etc. And we need to get here. How are we going to do it? So you learn how to do all that in a very macro sense. You don't get into the nitty gritty details. And then, once you take all those basic little skills you learned, you figure out your pace count, which is, I think it's 100 meters. You want to figure out how many steps it takes you normally walking to get to hit 100 meters. And that's how you measure distance when you're on foot. And then you have a compass. You figure out how to shoot an azimuth. You figure out what true north is, magnetic north, and then I think it's grid north or something. And they just kind of drop you out there you do a couple runs during the day, and you have to hit 3 points. So these points are scattered around through this massive stretch of just forest and hills on Fort Benning, Georgia. And then you try to get to these points, and there's a number. So to prove that you got there, you have to write down the number on the post, right? Because there's no way, you have to actually see the post. There's no way to fake this. And once you hit your 3 points or whatever it is, you go to the rendezvous site at the very end, and you have a set time limit, like let's say 4 hours. And maybe one of your points is way down by the road, like way the hell out of there. And then your other points across. So you got to plan like where you're going to go first. You don't want to be doubling back. And you're carrying gear and stuff, so it's very, very realistic. And then the nighttime version is even worse, because you literally just get woken up at like 1 a.m. and then you get trucked off to some place. You get like a 30-minute little intro, and then they're like, "All right, figure it out, dum-dums," and they send you out in teams of 3, I believe. And you have this. You can't even use white light, so you have a little red flashlight, and you're trying your best to figure this thing out. You're just falling into ravines, and you're getting lost, and it's good fun. So that was kind of in essence what it was. And as far as like how to deal with it, man, you just got to figure it out. You just got to apply all the knowledge you previously learned, and you just got to fucking do it. There's no land navigation, it's not a strength of mine anyway, so that was tough for me. But there's no magic bullet here. I mean, it's just applying all the skills you learned, and realizing that that's what you have to do to complete this little mini mission, and you do it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, were you ever when you were out there, were you ever scared? Were you ever worried that you might not be able to get to where you needed to go? Did you have anything going through your mind, like any doubts that you can remember? I know this is a while ago.
Yeah, no, I remember this pretty well.
Some things are seared into your mind.
Yeah, no. During the nighttime portion, man, I was so out of it. We were not getting enough sleep. But yeah, I mean, I was worried in general. I was worried that we weren't going to hit our points on time, and that we weren't going to complete the course properly, and we're going to have to redo it, and we're going to get held back. And you go down the slippery slope fallacy where you're like, oh, and then I'm not going to get a job, and then I'm going to get beat up, and then I'm going to be poor, and then I'm not going to have a house, and then no one's going to love me. No, being a little dramatic there. But yeah, no, just general anxiety and worry, nothing specific. I do recall during the daytime portion, which I think there was much longer distances. So this guy kept saying, like, hey, you need to calm down. And I was like, what are you talking about? Completely calm. And then years later, I looked back at it because I remembered it so distinctly. And you know what? I was stressing the fuck out. I mean, I was freaking out. But I never, in that exact moment, I distinctly remember feeling fine. But then I thought back, I was like, you know what? I was pretty antsy. I was really worried about that. And it turned out fine. So, yeah, that's that.
Okay. Now, how did you guys, can you talk about how you guys worked as a team? Like, did any of your anxieties or anything, any of your doubts subside when you started working with your team to reach your goal?
You know, I'm sure they did. I don't recall. It's very general for me at this point in my life. I
Okay.
mean, I remember working with them. And I will say in general that if you're working with a team of competent people, that can help relieve anxiety and move you closer to your goal. But specifically in this situation, I don't recall anything. I mean, I'd be lying if I was like, yeah, Billy was really great at reading a map. I just don't remember.
Billy did such a great job, and he sat
Billy
me
got us out
down,
of there.
patted
Billy
me
got
on
us
the
out of there,
head,
man.
rubbed my back, and said, "Man, you're a champ. We're gonna make you do this."
Yeah, nothing like that, unfortunately. So
Okay. Yeah, no, those are that, the reason I wanted to kind of zero in on that story, and I actually was writing down notes, I'm sure you noticed while
I
we were
did, I
going
did.
through. So, the first thing is you talked about where you were and, and the goal, where you needed to be, right? So ultimately, when we're going through, let's say, some sort of change, it could be anything. Like for me, there was a couple of big ones, like becoming a dad, leaving a job to start a business, things like that, right? But you always have that end goal in mind or an idea of where you want to go. Not everyone's going to be like, hey, I know exactly what I want to do with my life because my counselor in high school talked to me about it, and we figured it out, which makes no sense to me. But
Well, I'd say most people don't have an exact idea of where they want to go, but most of
right.
us are an exact point or position, but most of us have a general idea of what we want to be doing, I would say, or we're figuring
Exactly.
it out, right?
Yep. And you also mentioned how you guys looked at look for different landmarks and things like that. So if someone's getting out and getting into the job field or getting into a job, and they're like, hey, this is what I want to do for a living, or then one of the landmarks could be a skill that they need to acquire or something like that. I mean, what are some other landmarks that you can think of if someone's going through like a big change?
Sure, that's a good question. I
It's kind
would
of
probably,
vague.
yeah, it's very vague. I would ask you to clarify as far as what you mean by landmarks.
Okay. Well, let's do this then. Um, okay, cool. So when you were right now, we were talking a little bit beforehand about you got a lot of exciting stuff going on with your job right now. A
Hmm.
lot of big things coming. Things could be changed
Definitely some changes.
100%. So think about maybe a landmark or something that you can look to or learn that can kind of bring you to where you want to be. I know that you're kind of at a fork in the road with multiple different
Sure.
ways of going. But is there certain skills that you need to acquire? Are there certain
Yeah,
shortfalls that you feel like you have that different that you need to develop on or build on? What kind of
always.
can help guide you along the way to where you're heading?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at anybody, no matter what position they're in life, there's always different skills or attributes or some character development that we need to work on. Now, the specifics of that are going to depend on what you're trying to accomplish, what your job is, what type of business you run, etc. But for me, I need to continue to develop several soft skills just to become better at the job itself. So skill building is always something that I think everyone should be working on, regardless of what you do or where you are. And then specific training on different types of software. For me, that's something I have to work on. That's just a part of the career path, right? Because you need to know your product before you sell it. Um, Continuous things like that. And then just
Mhm.
very generally, pros and cons of taking different positions at different times. Regardless of options or opportunities, you need to be looking at, well, if I do X, what's Y? So planning ahead, being preemptive with your decision making, and asking yourself, well, what do you actually want? What do you really want? Because though, depending, all of those questions are super pertinent because that's going to, determine what the best or worst course of action for you is. So
Yeah.
a mix of all those things, I would say, right? There's plenty of stuff in there to dig into, but generally speaking, all sorts of different things to look out for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Another thing you talked about was pace too. I think this is something that's that a lot of people don't pay enough attention to, especially if they wake up one night in suburbia and they realize that they're broke or that they can't pay their bills or something like that. That's an extreme thing, right? That's an extreme example. But, then their goal after that is to essentially make a lot of money, right? And they don't set any type of pace. They just say, hey, listen, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it now. And if I start now, then I'm going to be good to go in a year. I'll be financially free in 5 months, right? But I know your pace was mostly to measure, so that you know how far you guys were going. But when it comes to pace, making sure that, you may be excited about something, right? I'm sure you were excited about getting the hell out of wherever you were, right?
Correct. Yes.
But also just making sure that, keeping the pace, meaning, not so much taking it slow, but if someone is trying to get somewhere or reach a goal and they don't have the appropriate amount of knowledge, the landmarks that we were discussing, right? Do you think you could be the CEO of the company right now?
Of course not.
Right? I mean, possibly you could go in there and all of a sudden, boom, you're solid. That's the thing is there are people out there that can absolutely do it, but keeping a pace, making sure that like you were talking about, you have to know how many steps it takes to get 100 meters. Every person is different. So everyone's going to have their own pace when it comes to, getting
Correct.
to their goals. Right. So making sure you keep the pace. And if my pace is slower, right? I mean, you're straight up crushing it when it comes to the sales thing. Right. But guess what? When I started my first sales job, I was making $125 a week because I didn't sell shit.
And that's how it goes sometimes,
Absolutely.
All very different.
Absolutely. But I gained certain skills from it. So there are the landmarks. Then, of course, I went into marketing, and that's when I started actually selling things and actually getting decent at it.
That's ironic.
But it took me about a year and a half of straight nothing just to be getting something out of it.
I hear you. Yeah, no, those are all really good points. I mean, everyone does pace differently. I don't think you should necessarily compare yourself to others all the time. Now, there are certain situations and circumstances where I think it's beneficial to compare yourself to others, but definitely don't let that. I don't think that should bog anyone down. I think the big thing that you brought up was the measurement. The fact that your pace should be a measurement, right? So, yeah, you're not going to be the CEO of any company in 5 months or even a month, unless you start it and it's a small, whatever, mom and pop shop. But there is a hierarchy and time in service and a ladder and a chain of command for a reason, right? So there's a natural life cycle to these things, whether you're an employee, an investor, a sole proprietor, or whatever. And everyone's on a different path, moving at a different speed. But I think the key thing across all of those different planes is the measurement. So you'll start in different places. Everyone should be fully aware of where they are at in their own pace, and then how long it's estimated to get them to the next role or the next position or wherever they want to be. Because without that measurement, you're just kind of flailing, just like an exercise. Without knowing your weights, you're kind of flailing through the air because you don't know what your progress is, right?
Exactly. And of course, making sure that you know your weights and know what days you're doing them, it's going to help you note your progression and keep building.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So another thing, you actually kind of said this in passing about, not always comparing yourself to other people.
Correct.
I'd really love to get your insight on, what times would you feel it'd be appropriate to maybe not compare yourself to other people, right? But I have a feeling, what you may have been alluding to is more like, if someone is doing, getting, let's say 100 leads a month or whatever. In my world, we're getting 100 leads every 2 weeks, right? But I see this other guy who's doing 1,000. Are you talking more about, comparing my results to his results?
Yeah, for me, it's always results. I'm not talking about compare your personality or like what type of car you drive, although that can be fun. I'm talking about comparing how well someone is doing within a very specific skill set or field to how well you're doing, and then using that as both a benchmark and internal motivation for competition. Like, oh, this guy's doing this, and I need to be doing that to keep up. Do you know what I mean? Like this guy's bringing in this, I'm bringing in this. How can I beat this guy, or how can I keep up, or how can I optimize whatever? And I think that's more of a motivational thing, because you want to know, if you're within a certain space, you want to know what other people are producing, and I think we can all agree we all want to be the best at what we do. So I think that can be Absolutely. Super beneficial in the business world. To don't look at the person, don't look at their personality, just look at what they're producing and be like, how can I get like that if they are doing better than me, right? Mm-hmm. Only if they're doing better than you. And, continuing to learn and bounce ideas and progress that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I find myself doing that a lot, comparing myself to other people. I get that little negative.
It's natural, yeah.
And I know, and it's something that it's never going to go away, and I know it, but I'm always looking for ways to kind of overcome it. And, for some reason, if I start comparing myself to someone, which I'll compare myself to people who have been doing what I want to do for a long time, which there is no comparison whatsoever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just drives me freaking nuts. But then after about a week of freaking out and saying, oh, my life is crap, then I'm like, oh, well, let me just look at what he's doing and freaking do it.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing you can do. I mean, we all, even not every comparison is even, first off, and you don't see a lot behind the scenes. So there's a lot of stuff going on that we're never going to see, and only that person will know. So while their life may look great, right, from the outside, everyone's got their own challenges. They started here, they started there, and it's definitely not healthy to spend too much time focusing on that aspect of comparison, I would say. Although it comes naturally, for sure. Everyone deals with that.
Yeah, 100%. So I definitely want to kind of cycle this back around to adjusting to change.
Sure.
So, of course, whenever there's a big change in your life, you could be a new dad. You could have gotten fired from a job or are leaving your job and getting promoted. You could have a major family incident. Maybe something happened to where there's going to be a major change in your family for whatever reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, the key points I took away from what you were talking about was, making sure that you know where you're going, even if not specifically, just
an idea, yeah.
An idea that you're going to freaking move forward. So just keep moving forward. The worst thing someone can do is to just stop.
Or backpedal.
Some people resort to things to reduce stress, like drugs and alcohol. And I'm not talking, every other day drinking or, every day you're having.
Not casual drinking, a problem, which I think we all know.
Problem. And start backpedaling. Or a lot of people internalize the things that are changing and essentially combat them. And then all of a sudden, everyone around is the enemy. And they just start lashing out, maybe break relationships that they used to have, burn certain bridges. But just knowing that you're moving forward in general and knowing that you're going to be fine, just keep pushing is a main thing. And also knowing your landmarks. I mean, knowing that you're going to have to do certain things differently. Yes, there is a big change and you're going to have to do shit differently. That's all right. You're going to learn, you're going to overcome. Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us. No, I was just agreeing. I mean, the the people that are most successful, I think, on the planet are people who are good. One of the skills, right? They have to have mandatory
Mhm.
is the ability to adapt to change in a positive way despite challenges.
Yep.
And without that, you have nothing, right? I mean, some people, if you move their desk at work, like they're like, you're sitting here now, they lose their minds over something very simple,
Yep.
right? And don't get me wrong, I've had to do that before, and I was like, what? For the first few hours, honestly, you people are creatures of habit and routine, and they will get mad, even if it's not on purpose. I mean, it taking even a little change like that, that takes a little bit of time to adapt. Now, clearly, we're talking about much bigger changes, but at the root of the issue, that's the same. I mean, people need to be able to adapt to change, know where they're going, and push through it, or else
Mhm.
you're nothing. You're backpedaling, you're flailing, you're failing,
Yep.
you're spinning your wheels. You don't want to be spinning your wheels.
Yeah. And I mean, and the pacing is super important. So making sure you're not comparing yourself to other people. Like, let's just take, for example, a dad. When I was a new dad, I was in a position where, I was working at the hospital a lot and I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. And my girlfriend at the time, she was like, listen, I want you to spend more time with me. I was going through a lot of stuff. And then I started looking over at these other dads. I was like, man, some guys have a great 9 to 5 job and, they're able to come home every night, spend time with their family. And I started comparing myself to it. That did nothing for me. What I had to
Correct.
do was
Yeah.
realize that, and I did after about, when Coraline was about 6 months old, I started realizing, I've got this handled. I had my own pace and I was also comparing myself to people who had been dads for a long, long time. But,
Yeah.
some guy can probably have his kid and then all of a sudden be the perfect dad. Well, fantastic for him. That was sure as hell not me. To this day, it's sure as hell not me.
I
Right?
don't even think that's possible, to be honest with you.
I really don't. It was funny. Coraline, actually, the other day, I was talking to her mom and we got a little heated. I wish I hadn't, done that. It wasn't like an argument, like yelling, but it was just,
Yeah. Slight
and
disagreement.
and I was like, I'm so sorry, baby. I did not mean to do that. She said, Daddy, there's no perfect dads, and I love you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I was like, hell
Can't
yeah,
beat that.
man. Right? But even in business, what I'm doing now, I've got my own pace. Some people jump in and they're just freaking crushing the game. They do 100,000, 200,000 in the first year, right? I'm doing really well. It's just that I'm not hitting those numbers yet. But
And even that, I'd say, is unrealistic. I mean, for the business is hard, and most businesses fail, and most people will never even do that, to be honest. So we think having good perspective is key too. Because if you expected to do $1 million your first year, you'd be sorely disappointed now, wouldn't you?
there goes those people who are like, I'm going to make $1 million like overnight.
Exactly. Yeah. Tomorrow, right?
One thing that this is just kind of a side note, one thing I've been doing is I've more or less been refocusing on, essentially I'm measuring the progress of my business based on the quality of the relationships that I have with our investors and the people whose houses that we are buying.
Got it.
It sounds kind of weird, and I still don't have a quantitative way of, documenting this. But
it's good that you're looking for something, though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm keeping my eyes open for it. But one of the things that I can say is that the past couple of weeks, from investors who call me, these are brand new guys, have never, talked to me before. They find our website, see our properties, are like, hey, give me some information. I've had 2 people in the past week say, man, I really appreciate you answering my call. I'm like,
there you go.
Well, thanks. I'm like, why would you say that?
You're like, of course, it's my job.
They basically said that, yeah, I'll call on a wholesale deal and no one will ever return my call, or they'll call me a week later. And and I'm doing the same thing.
There's a lot of bad customer service.
A lot of bad customer service. That's why I'm focusing on doing things like, sending handwritten notes to people on properties that I'm following up with, or that I talk to and they don't want to sell right now, or, just things like that. and saying, thank you. I really appreciate you. If something changes or if you hear of someone, let me know. And that's kind of where I'm going with measuring,
Mm-hmm.
the success and, the challenges I'm going through right now. I mean, it's primarily right now it's balancing, because where I'm at, like we were discussing earlier, my brother is doing a fantastic job keeping the backside of the business going by finding, skip tracing these people and finding them so that mom can call them, right? And they're like the lead generators. Well, now it's to the point where I got to develop the systems to make the process easier for them and make it to where everything will flow smoothly, so that once we step away from the business and we bring on those people who are going to do better work, it's going to run effectively. And then I can bring in someone to run the entire company so that we don't have to do jack.
And that's a great example of preemptively adapting to change, right? So that was planned, and we're doing this ahead of time. Scott, do you have I'm missing this here. Maybe it's just because we're recording on Zoom. Do you have a running time for how long this has been recording? I think we might be over.
I have no idea. I will be 100% honest with you.
Yeah, because I've seen at least, I won't say it's been at least 25 minutes, but I'm pretty sure it's been closer to upwards of 30. We should probably wrap this up. Is there anything else that you feel like we need to point out or cover before I do the regular spiel at the end, directing people to our social media?
No. Final thoughts on this is just listen, change is going to happen. Just making sure you know where you're heading. Just keep trucking. I know if you're in a position right now and you feel just alone and that you don't know what you're doing, guess what? I don't know what the hell I'm doing on a daily basis. But that doesn't stop me from getting out there and just smashing it.
Taking some action.
Yep. And, never compare yourself to other people. Some people are going to catch on faster in certain things, and you're going to catch on faster in other things. So don't worry about it. Keep pushing forward. You are the freaking bomb, and you know it. That's my final thought.
Well said, Scott. Well, as always, thanks for sharing your feedback, your expertise, and discussing this topic today. I liked it. I'm always happy to have you on. I would love it if everyone would give us a follow on Instagram at Brains, Brawn, and BS. As always, continue to send us questions or feedback on our Gmail, which is brainsbrawnandbs@gmail.com. Happy to do it, guys. I hope everyone had a fantastic week, and we'll see you on the next one. So take care.
Peace.